Good afternoon, ma'am. Good afternoon, classmates. I am Jordan Estihada, and I will be your reporter for today. And my topic would be continuation to this topic, which is the expressive macro skills and more likely speaking. So I actually have four topics. First one is the lesson design in teaching speaking. Second one is material and resources in teaching speaking. The third one would be performance-based assessment in teaching speaking, and the last one would be feedbacking in assessing speaking. So let's start off with lesson design in teaching speaking. So for this one, this is to give the teacher an idea of how to create a lesson plan in teaching speaking. So I believe, guys, during the macro skills activity with Miss Bay assigned us to an create a lesson plan for this one. So I do believe that we already have a background idea of how to create a lesson plan. But this time, we'll go ahead and dig more deeper on how to create a lesson plan. I actually have gathered some examples here from online, and my resources is actually the very last part of this slides. We'll show it later on. But let's start off with this slide. Alright, so this is not new to us. Since if we are going to create a lesson plan, of course, there will be a date and the aim, and never been forgotten, of course, the objectives of what are our objectives, why we are going to teach that particular lesson to our students, or what are the outcomes, or what are we are going to expect right after we have discussed that particular lesson to our class. All right, so I have here the stages of how to on during that discussion. I have here four stages, which is opening, pre-speaking, production, and the last one would be closing. So start off with opening. So opening, of course, it contains our greetings there. It also contains our prayer. It also contains our revising, our warm up, and the transition. And here on my example, the teacher gives or allotted time for this one. This opening should only 10 minutes, so that the teacher will never be running out of time. And of course, the teacher listed here the materials that should be needed during that discussion. And if you have noticed on the last column here, or in the last row, there is a comments there. So for these comments, you can just, or if you are a teacher, you can just fill this one out right after you have done that discussion, because this is how you are going to put your comments of what have you observed during that discussion. So next stage would be pre-speaking. So in this pre-speaking, it contains techniques. It gives it will give you a guide of what should be the first step that you will be doing on this class. So there should be a time also, and then also the materials of what are the materials needed, and same goes with the comments. So the next stage would be production. It also gives you these techniques by describing the daily schedule. You can put your activities under this column, the activities that you will be taken on during that discussion, and what are the other activities that you wanted to add. So there also a time here. It contains 30 minutes, and also the materials, and also the comments. And another one here, this could be another example for the activities that the teacher wanted to be on that class. There will be here like a warm up also. The activities like what time do you get up, do you go to school, take a nap, have dinner, go to bed. So on this activity, the teacher will give her idea first, or her about her first, her time frame for her time. The next one is the students. So that is the activity also, and another activity that the teacher wanted to. And the last one or of the stages would be the closing one. So for the closing, of course, the never be forgotten, the summary, and the teacher should ask if or will observe is if the students really understood what the teacher discussed by. There will be the summary, there should be a quizzes and all of those, but this time frame, the teacher can make it like 10 to 15 minutes, since of course the teacher will conduct a quiz first, making sure that his or her students really catch up the discussion that he or she has, and then the comments, and of course the materials. The teacher can just use paper and pen for the quizzes. All right, so next topic would be materials and resources and teaching speaking. Teaching material development for speaking. So, introduction. Speaking is a productive skill. Theoretically, according to O'Grady, 1996, it is a mental process. This means that it is a psychological process by which a speaker puts a mental concept into some linguistic form, such as word, phrases, and sentences, used to convey a message to a listener. So the speech production is the process by which the speakers turn their mental concept and their spoken utterances to convey a message to their listeners and communicative interaction. So of course, since we are talking about the materials here, so the teacher have the materials to catch the students or the listeners' attention. From a communicative view of the language classroom, listening and speaking skills are closely intertwined. ESL curricular treat oral communication skills will simply be labeled as listening or speaking course. So I have here the four language skills, which can consider as a material for speaking or teaching speaking. So I have here, yes, the four materials. But to start off, when we learn the language, there are four skills that we need for complete communication. When we learn our native language, we usually learn to listen first, then to speak, then to read, and finally to write. These are called the four language skills. So the first skill would be listening. So for listening, you can advise your students to have online dictation audio. So this can help your students to improve their English listening skills, and they can also improve their spelling, writing, and typing skills. Dictation can help in many ways. They even help you learn new vocabulary and the context. And you can also ask your student to listen to poetry and English audio, and some for this one, classic pieces of poetry and other text for you to listen and read. So by this one, as a teacher, you can like prepare an audio for your students, and you can give them an activity to enhance their listening skills. Another one would be ESL videos audio. So more listening practice by watching videos. So you can also pair that audio with video, but this time you can make it like there is no subtitle, so you can like give a test to their listening skills, really, if they can understand or they know what the characters is trying to say by just listening it without reading the subtitle. But me myself, I would actually like agree that it would be better if I'm going to watch movie if there is a subtitle. I agree with the subtitle one. So the other one is that you can ask your student to look for the histories audio and listen to new stories every Monday. Includes transcript, word checker, and quizzes. So this time, this is where the teacher can put the subtitle on the video. Next would be songs for learning English audios. So, essay English songs with subtitles. This is also applies with the subtitle. And yes, of course, if we have noticed that when we hear a sound, compare or we have a music, lyric music compared to a poem, it is more easier to the people to memorize that lyric word or that lyric music than that poem. I actually agree on that one. Like I have noticed a lot of people like when they just sing that particular song twice or thrice, they almost memorize it. Well, if you ask that people to read that particular poem or sentence for even thrice or five times, they're having hard time memorizing it. So I would actually like agree also that lyric music is easier to memorize and of course easier to understand the lyric that can or the audio on it and if the audio is actually clear. All right, so the second skills would be speaking skills guide strategies and tips for better English speaking. The importance of speaking practice. Speaking to yourself can be dangerous because men in white coats may come and take you away. That is why you should make every effort possible to find somebody to speak with. So I also have here the practices. Same goes with skill number one. I also have here the practices on how you are going to teach or ask your students to practice themselves on their speaking skills. All right, so the first practice that I have is you can ask your students on how to address people in English audio. So right after the students listen to that particular audio, and if there is a question on that audio, you can ask your students to answer it, and you can actually like give a test on their speaking skills by answering that audio if there is a question to that audio that you prepared for them. So the next practice would be greetings in English audio. So greetings in English, say for example, on the very beginning of the very first minute of the class, you can ask your student to go in front of the class and say something that you wanted to, or you can like give a particular topic, then they just wanted to expound that topic by using English language. So you can give them a test on also on their speaking skills, just like what we are doing right now. Since we are English major, so we are being forced to use this language instead of using vernacular or Tagalog. Since this is our major subject, so we should be knowledgeable enough of this particular language since we are taking this major. So the next practice would be telephone English. In this lesson, we took at some of the words and expression that we use for telephoning. There are also some practice session and quizzes for you to check your understandings. So the third skills would be reading. So for reading, I also have here the practices that the teacher can advise to his or her students on how to or how the students can improve their reading skills. So the first practice would be ask them to read reading for kids. So this one a collection of printable short stories for young learners of English, such as elementary to upper intermediate with audio and exercises. So for this, as a teacher, you can like ask your students to, of course, start with the very beginning first, before jumping off to like a like a level 2 or level 3 of reading. So you can like ask your students to read the book for kids, since a book for kids is easy to understand. And if you think that they are good enough in understanding a story about for kids or about kids, or for kids, you can like ask them to all right, go ahead and go further to this level of book, and that's how it works. So short stories. So you can also ask your students to read short stories, and this can also improve their speaking skills. I mean, reading skills. And then read about sports. So students or learners today are more engaged with television or internet. So since internet, there is a lot of sports that that is showing onto the internet, and this can capture their attention. So you can ask them to read about sports, because you can like have an idea that, oh, my students are very very interested about sports, especially today volleyball is very very popular onto the television and on the internet. So this sports can catches their attention. So you can like give them a reading materials about sports and let them read about that one. Alright, so read about musics. So this is what I have mentioned also earlier, that if you compare a person who reads music, lyric, and poem or a poem, that person will be never having hard time memorizing that music um, compared to poem. But this time, since you are giving a test to their reading skills, that would also fine. You can also give them a music material book that contains like a difficult word or a difficult word to read. Then you can like give them a test if they can really read that difficult word. And then read about movies, that could be like novels that we have available on our bookstores, and read about environmental issues. So skills number 4, that would be writings. I also have here the practices that the teacher can give to his or her students. So first practice would be alphabet. So alphabet, English alphabet from A to Z in small and large letters with font styles and alphabetical order. So of course, when you give a writing or when you ask them to write, of course, you already expect that they already know about this alphabetical. But if there is any, do you have noticed that there is a need for the students to be corrected, then of course that's your job. You can just go ahead and correct your students. Right, so next one would be using capital letters. So of course, you need to educate your students of when to use capital letters, when to use small letters, and spelling rules. So by following rules can help you to decode the mysteries of English spelling. This section includes spelling variation between British English and American English. Um, it's also part of our job as a teacher to correct the spelling of our students. When we ask them to write a particular or write about that particular topic, and once we have read it, and if we have noticed that there will be like a wrong spelling, you can like crush that word out, and then you can like give the correct spelling one. And you can also implement spelling quizzes to your students. And then abbreviation, so you can also educate your students on how to use that abbreviation. What is the proper way? When are we going to use that abbreviation? And then the type. Writing that you see in the book on the computer screen is called type. So if you're going to give your students a material that you wanted them to read, if you are giving it via internet or a textbook, so that is called type. So next topic will be performance-based assessment and teaching speaking. A performance-based assessment is a type of assessment that requires students to perform a task using skills learned in class. and differs from traditional, standardized, and multiple choice tests in which students normally answer questions about how to do those skills. Alright, so I actually have here the types of performance based that the teacher can give to his or her students. So let's start off with role plays. So for the role plays, since you're giving them performance or you're basing on their performance, so you can give this activity to your students on how they are going to perform that particular character that you want them to perform. So you can use that basis to grade your students. Next one would be group investigation. So as a group investigation, you can use this one to grade your students on how they are going to cooperate by group or within that group. Since that is performance, how they are going to cooperate with this group on doing that investigation. Can also give a basis on how you're going to grade them using this group investigation activity. Next one would be interviewing. Alright, so for this interviewing, it seems like you are just you're also giving them an activity that is related about role playing, because for this one, you wanted them to imagine one of, since this is like by pair, you can ask that first pair to be like a human resource manager of the company, while the second pair would be an applicant for the job position. Then the student asked and answered question to each other, completing the task successfully. So you can also give them or uses this or use this activity to grade your students by basing their performance on how they are going to perform during this interview. Right, so next one would be oral presentation. Just like what I am doing right now, our teacher is basing on how I am presenting right now, and of course, what is the content of my topic, and our teacher can use this performance using the oral presentation that we have to give us or to grade us. Next would be video-based oral presentation. So for the video-based oral presentation, since we are in a high technology, so technology opened doors to the development and assessment of students' speaking skills out of the classroom walls. So from this one, you can the teacher can ask the students to have further explanation about the video that what they are seeing or the video that you presented to them, or you can ask them to have a video or have a video related to that topic and discuss it to the class. That's how it works. All right, so the next topic would be feedbacking and assessing speaking. So this one, the teacher can give feedback to the performance of the students. So what the teacher needs to consider before giving a feedback. So broadly speaking, making decision about what feedback to give can be guided by the purpose of a task. For example, are we looking for develop proficiency or accuracy with the task? Or we know there is evidence that fluency task like discussion or debates can also develop accuracy. We also know that the learner opportunities associated with fluency tasks, such as gain in self-confidence and opportunities to use more complex language, are valuable to teacher and learners. So for this one, so since the teacher is done all those things during that discussion, during that performance, during that activity, now this time the teacher will give his or her feedback onto that particular performance. But when we think of feedback, we likely think of the teacher giving feedback to students, which is of course a valuable exchange. However, there are also here are also ways for learners to get feedback from each other, which in fact can be more valuable. Moreover, we can see silence as feedback, where an absence of language can tell something about the gaps in students' knowledge. So when we think feedback, the teacher should um, give feedback properly, because the students are properly and appropriately, without hurting any feelings about the students. All right. So what can teacher to do answer those questions? But of course, before we proceed to this one, so the teacher can ask like to the students of or the students may ask the teacher of what should um or what would be, or let me say the students may ask the teacher of what are the lackings why I received that feedback, why I have this low grade feedback. And the students can ask the teacher of or gaps in knowledge on, and how should we do this, explicitly or implicitly, delayed or immediately. So the students can ask that to the teacher. So that's why the teacher should be careful by giving feedback to the students. So in connection to that one, to the questions that the students might ask to the teacher, so what can teachers do to answer those questions? So what important is to know how to make informed decision and to see if research can guide us on feedback path. Really, it comes down to being selective, understanding our students, and understanding our motivation as a teacher. What is the feedback supposed to achieve? So since the student starts to ask to the teacher of what might be the reason why I just received that I received that feedback, why I am just receiving 4 out of 5 or 10 points out of 15 points. So of course the teacher can answer it of what may the reason why the teacher can give, or as a teacher we should answer that the particular question of the students why we just give that to them. And if there will be lacking, we can like inform our students so that next time the students will keep on mind that the feedback that you have, so that maybe next time if you are going to give them another activity, so they will keep that one on mind and they will apply it, so that they can have a perfect score. So this would be the last one. Here's how you can evaluate the speaking. So of course, to avoid those questions to your students why they are just receive that score or that grade, of course you need to set a proper expectation to them. You can create a rubric for them to follow if they wanted to hit that perfect score. Of course, you can include on your rubric to your pronunciation, vocabulary, accuracy, communication skills, interaction, and their fluency. And I think that would be it. Thank you so much for your time and for listening. You have a great day ahead.